The Sahara. Just the name conjures images of endless dunes, a scorching sun, and caravans slowly trudging across the heated sand. But behind this stark beauty lie many secrets. Secrets that have shaped the culture and traditions of the nomadic peoples inhabiting this unforgiving region for centuries. One of the most intriguing and certainly controversial traditions whispered in the shadows of tents and around campfires concerns a peculiar attitude towards travelers. But what is this? A cruel custom? A relic of the past? Or a complex survival system deeply rooted in the harsh realities of the desert? To understand this, we must embark on a journey through Saharan history, culture, and anthropology, setting aside our preconceptions and trying to grasp the logic and motivations of the people living in this unique corner of the world. Are you ready to discover the social mechanisms and cultural codes hidden behind this mysterious tradition?
Harsh reality. Survival in extreme conditions.
The Sahara is not just a desert, it's an extreme environment where survival depends on mutual aid and hospitality. Imagine this: a lack of water, a scorching sun during the day, and freezing cold at night, the constant threat of sandstorms, and the unpredictability of nomadic life. In such conditions, every traveler far from home depends on the mercy of those they encounter. Hospitality in the Sahara isn't just politeness, it's a matter of life and death. Denying health to a traveler could lead to their demise, which in turn would negatively impact the tribe's reputation and its future survival. In this context, the willingness to share food, water, and shelter becomes not just a moral duty, but a necessity for maintaining social stability and the survival of the entire community. What mechanisms ensured the adherence to these unwritten rules, and how did they affect the relationships between men and women in nomadic tribes? The role of women in nomadic society, between tradition and necessity. Women play a crucial role in Saharan nomadic society. They are not only keepers of the hearth, but also active participants in the tribe's economic life. Women engage in crafts, trade, animal care, and raising children. They hold significant authority within the family and tribe, and their opinions are often considered when making important decisions. However, their roles are also defined by traditions and customs that may seem contradictory, even unfair to us outside observers. How does a woman's high status in nomadic society reconcile with traditions that, at first glance, limit her freedom and choices? What role did women play in maintaining the social structure and ensuring the tribe's survival in the harsh desert conditions? The inability to refuse as a social mechanism, protecting the traveler or controlling women. The tradition where a woman cannot refuse a traveler raises many questions and interpretations. On one hand, it can be seen as a manifestation of hospitality and mutual aid, essential for survival in extreme conditions. On the other hand, it can be perceived as a form of control over women, limiting their freedom and choices. It's important to understand that this tradition is not universal to all Saharan tribes, and its interpretation can vary depending on the specific cultural context. In some tribes, refusing a traveler is indeed considered unacceptable, but there are strict rules and limitations governing interactions between women and guests. In other tribes, a woman has the right to refuse a traveler if she feels threatened or if his request contradicts the tribe's traditions and customs. How was this tradition regulated within the tribe? What social consequences befell a woman who broke these rules? What mechanisms existed to protect women from abuse? Rituals of hospitality, symbolism and meaning. Hospitality in the Sahara is more than just providing food and shelter. It's a complex ritual with deep symbolic meaning. Greeting a traveler, offering them tea, exchanging news, all these actions are important elements in establishing trust and mutual understanding. In some tribes, hospitality is accompanied by special rites and ceremonies that symbolize the traveler's protection and safety. These rituals may include reciting prayers, performing songs and dances, and offering gifts. What role did women play in these rituals? What symbolic meanings did their actions and words carry? How did hospitality rituals contribute to strengthening social bonds and preserving the tribe's cultural identity? Comparison with other cultures. Hospitality as a universal value. Hospitality is an important value in many cultures worldwide, especially those facing harsh living conditions. Among the nomadic peoples of Central Asia, the inhabitants of the far north, the mountain tribes of the Caucasus, traditions related to a special attitude towards guests can be found everywhere. In these cultures, hospitality is viewed not only as a moral duty, but also as a way to establish alliances, exchange knowledge, and ensure safety. Comparing hospitality traditions across different cultures allows us to better understand universal principles of human behavior and adaptation to the environment. What commonalities and differences can be identified in the hospitality traditions of various peoples? How do these traditions influence social structure and cultural identity?
Modernity and the transformation of traditions from survival to tourism.
As civilization and globalization advance, the traditional ways of life for the nomadic peoples of the Sahara are undergoing significant changes. The construction of roads, the development of tourism, and the spread of education all impact the culture and customs of these groups. Traditions of hospitality, including those involving a special regard for travelers, are also transforming. In some tribes, these traditions are preserved in their original form, while in others, they are adapting to new circumstances. Tourism, on one hand, can help preserve cultural heritage, but on the other, it can lead to its commercialization and distortion. How do modern realities affect the traditions of hospitality in the Sahara? What measures are being taken to preserve the cultural identity of nomadic peoples in the face of globalization? How can tourism be developed without harming traditional culture and ways of life? Ethical questions: respect for culture or protection of human rights. Studying traditions like the one we're discussing inevitably raises ethical questions. Where do we draw the line between respecting a culture and protecting human rights? Should we accept all traditions, no matter how strange or even cruel they may seem? Or are we obligated to intervene when we witness human rights violations? The answer to this question cannot be straightforward. We must consider the context, people's motivations, and the potential consequences of our actions. It's important to remember that any culture is a complex and dynamic system that constantly evolves and adapts to changing conditions. We should not judge other cultures from the perspective of our own worldview, but should strive for understanding and respect. How can we find a balance between respecting cultural diversity and protecting human rights? What principles should guide our approach to studying and evaluating the traditions of other peoples? A scientific perspective, anthropological research, and cultural evolution. Anthropological research plays a vital role in understanding the culture and traditions of the Sahara's nomadic peoples. Scientists study their language, customs, beliefs, and social structures to understand how they have adapted to harsh living conditions and how their culture has evolved over centuries. Anthropological studies allow us to see the hidden meanings and social mechanisms behind the outward appearance of traditions. They help us understand how traditions contribute to survival, strengthen social bonds, and maintain cultural identity. Cultural evolution is the process of gradual change and development of a culture influenced by various factors, such as the environment, technology, migration, and contact with other cultures. Studying cultural evolution helps us understand how traditions change over time and adapt to new conditions. What conclusions can be drawn from anthropological research on hospitality traditions in the Sahara? How have these traditions evolved over the centuries, and how do they impact the lives of nomadic peoples today? Alternative interpretations, unveiling the multifaceted nature of tradition.
It's crucial to understand that any tradition can be interpreted differently depending on the viewpoint and cultural context. What may seem cruel and unjust to us might hold a completely different meaning for people who grew up within that culture. For example, A tradition where a woman cannot refuse a traveler might be seen not only as a form of control over women, but also as a way to protect the traveler from danger. In the desert, where every traveler depends on the mercy of those they encounter, refusing help could lead to their death. A woman's willingness to host a traveler in her home could be a way to ensure their safety and protection from enemies. Furthermore, this tradition could be viewed as a means of strengthening social ties and maintaining the tribe's cultural identity. What alternative interpretations can be offered for the tradition where a woman cannot refuse a traveler? How do these interpretations help us better understand the culture and customs of the Sahara's nomadic peoples?
Instead of a conclusion, lessons from the Sahara and global understanding. Studying the traditions of the Sahara's nomadic peoples, even the most controversial and debated ones, can offer us valuable lessons about human nature, adaptation to the environment, and cultural evolution. We can learn how traditions are shaped by harsh living conditions and how they contribute to survival and the strengthening of social bonds. We can learn to respect cultural diversity and understand that not all traditions that seem strange or unjust to us are necessarily so. We can learn to view the world from different perspectives and see the hidden meanings and social mechanisms behind the outward appearance of traditions. Ultimately, studying the traditions of the Sahara's nomadic peoples can help us become more tolerant, understanding, and open to the world. What are the main lessons we can draw from studying the traditions of the Sahara's nomadic peoples? How can these lessons help us in our daily lives and in our relationships with others? How can we promote global understanding and respect for cultural diversity? In conclusion, the topic we've touched upon is complex and multifaceted. It requires a delicate and balanced approach based on respect for cultural diversity and a pursuit of understanding. We hope this article has helped broaden your horizons and view the world from a new perspective. The Sahara holds many more secrets, and exploring its culture and traditions is a fascinating journey that can change our perception of human nature and the world as a whole.